Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of There Goes Tokyo. I don't know, should this be like Remix Part 2, The Continuance, Revengeance?
Remix never really ended. We just get super busy, listeners, so
it's a long time.
Thank you for sticking with us if you're still watching.
It's also got like an alternate name. I feel like we call it Kaiju Cast sometimes.
We do, but it's copyrighted. So.
Oh, there's a Kaiju Cast out there.
There is a Kaiju Cast out there, unfortunately.
Well, don't find this accidentally and take away the little bit of viewership we have. Please, we're just kicking in there.
Yeah.
No, actually, when is the last time we actually recorded something, made a video?
Oh my goodness, it's been a while. I think it might have been Shin. Actually, Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, wait, we did the Gamera thing with your brother, which I think was not super long ago, but that still might have been like
I feel like there was one more after that, but I can't lose my mind.
I could check the channel.
Long day, everybody. Sorry about that.
It's been a long time, so this is one you and I were talking about for a while. Just you were throwing up just different ideas for different episodes, and we're doing another double.
Definitely.
And we're doing two kind of... You'll have to tell me if you planned this, because you didn't say you planned this, but we're doing two like sort of... mockumentary, documentary. We got the films here. If Justin, you want to be the prop man, we got Big Man Japan. Big Man Japan, and Trollhunter. So both foreign language. I think that if you did that, did you plan that or was that accidental?
Full disclosure, that was not planned.
Because you're all about the themes. You're all about like making them. I'm like, that's not a plan. Like, just
no. I legitimately didn't realize how well this double synergized.
That's why I was like, no, we're doing it as a double. I think that's good.
It's weird though because I was thinking like if I probably would have done Trollhunter and Cloverfield, but I think this works out a lot better. And listeners, I think in a few minutes you'll understand why.
Well, and put it here because whenever I put it up, it's like official. But we talked about it messaging. I know you're a big Cloverfield fan. Mm-hmm. I think we should do an episode at some point talking about the Cloverfield stuff.
Absolutely.
So there you go. I've made sort of a promise to the internet, so we can hold me to it if we forget. Trollhunter's kind of like found footage-esque. Mm-hmm. Big Man Japan is like kind of documentary. Mockumentary though. I kind of wanted to ask you a question, our first tangent before we really get into the movies.
That's all right.
Because as I was watching these, it was kind of almost like a side question that came up.
That's okay.
The concept of the mockumentary.
Yes.
I feel like how well would you define that? Because as I was watching both of these, I thought that they had elements of mockumentary, but I didn't feel that either one was truly a mockumentary. I know Big Man Japan was labeled as one, and we'll get into it as I talk my feelings, and I didn't feel like it wasn't as much as, say, like, go-tos like Spinal Tap, where it's like pure comedy, sticking with it, whereas...
both have funny moments. I would say Big Man Japan is a bit more in the mockumentary camp. I mean, obviously comedy as a whole is subjective.
Very.
But Big Man Japan has, like, the dark, satirical... Should I be laughing at this kind of humor to it?
That's what I was thinking about it, because I was like, it's one of those things, and who knows? We'll jump around. It's what we do. But on that, because I was thinking about the concept of it, because it's like a label.
Mm-hmm.
We like to put things in boxes. But like when I think of, I don't know if there are any examples you can come up with, but like when Big Man Japan, maybe it's because it was so bleak and dry and dark humored.
Yes,
I was like watching this. I'm like, this is not really funny. At least initially, and I was like, well, it's almost like if there are certain films out there that are like, instead of mockumentary, like a fake documentary-esque is more accurate to the movies, which even the Trollhunter, it's like, it's found footage, but you could say it's just a documentary that was like, lost.
Yeah.
So I thought it's interesting, the definition can be loose.
Trollhunter definitely has more of the, like, found footage vibe, especially with the intro and outro, as well as just the standard tropes of what you would expect of a found footage movie.
Oh man, turn that camera off.
Shaky cam,
still working. Like reasons
awkward cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of like that stuff.
I do too. I think the big problem right now, looking at the found footage genre in this lens, I apologize for getting off topic.
In this lens, I like that. See, I told
is. We're looking at this in 2024, and we've had some great found footage movies over the years, but the problem is now we just know what to expect because we've seen it done so many times in so many flavors. Done well, done badly, done forgettably.
Do you remember The Pyramid?
How could I forget?
That's the question.
Viewers, that is a kaiju movie we will never, ever need to review.
I hate that movie.
It's so bad.
Remember it, though. That jump scare. See, okay, well, all right, to get us slightly more organized, because I'm sure that some people watching, Amanda will watch this and be like, guys, you're off topic, so apologize, honey. Okay. Well, to make it a little more organized, because it's been a while, well, we can talk about each movie and our experiences with it. And I will say that both of these are kind of fresh for me because I gave myself more time and I watched them both today with Amanda. So, of course, I got some...
I am going to be fascinated to see what you come up with.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I need more time to digest and think.
Yes,
so
I agree.
I'm probably just going to be like, I'm just going to say what I feel and hopefully it is a decent conversation.
I think we'll have some good conversation pieces here.
We usually do.
Yes.
All right, Justin. So, which one would you like to talk about first? Keep them on edge.
I'm kind of feeling Big Man Japan. You'll see where I'm going with this in a second.
It's because he knows how I feel about Trollhunter already.
I mean, yes, but no. We've talked about it over the years, but we've never, actually gone into it.
That's true.
And a small tangent before we get into Big Man Japan.
Third or fourth one.
I promise, folks, this is going somewhere. Just bear with me.
Editing. No editing at all.
No, we're doing it live.
Raw.
This is not possible.
It's raw.
Trollhunter is one of those movies that I knew of when it came out, and it wasn't that I avoided it. It was just every time I was trying to watch it, either something came up, or I had it, or it was in my crosshairs, but I couldn't find it, or some variation of the varying reasons why I couldn't narrow this one down. But you told me it was good. A couple other friends told me it was good. So, sorry, rephrase. The reason this came to be was more or less. It was kind of low-key my put up or shut up in terms of Trollhunter.
Just do it!
Yes, this is a kaiju movie. This is happening. We need to do this. But I would say Big Man Japan because this is one that I feel like I took a lot more away from it upon reflection. I saw Big Man Japan for the first time probably 1, maybe 2 months ago.
Oh, pretty new then.
Yeah. So you seeing it straight out the gate.
Oh.
Honestly, if I'm being blunt with you listeners, if I had done a review immediately after watching it with all of my opinions still kind of permeating, I feel like you would have gotten a radically different review.
It would be more like the movie, probably.
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
All right, well then, I am curious then, because maybe you can help me.
Sure.
Help me, Justin. Yeah, Big Man Japan.
Yes.
I don't know. All right, since you want to lead it,
sure.
I'll let you do a brief synopsis.
Okay.
And what's Big Man Japan about for people that don't?
Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, which I imagine is most of you, Big Man Japan is a documentary, I would say satire of the kaiju genre as a whole, that follows the later years of a man known as Masaru Daisato. He is the superpower of having a reaction to electricity and will grow several meters tall to basically fight various threats that impede his hometown. But rather than being considered a hero, he is lambasted. His home is constantly facing graffiti and
bricks,
often and bricks among other things. And one thing that we start finding is there are threats that are much bigger and much more powerful than he is able to take care of. So this is a movie that, honestly, I feel like it benefits from kind of taking every preconceived notion about the kaiju genre that we know of and more or less throwing it out the window. I wouldn't say if you're new, start with this because, oh man, I can't even imagine the takeaways.
I wouldn't recommend it. You'd never watch one of these again.
No, probably not. But
it's pretty out there.
I also think it's one of the few times we kind of get to see a cross-blending of genres. You could view this as a kaiju movie, or you could also view this as kind of a satire of not only kaiju, but also of superheroes. What happens when you're past your prime? What happens when you are a Silver Age hero or a more traditional hero in the 60s and you're going up against much bigger, much more frightening things than you are personally capable of. If you're just a giant dude with a big bar to beat back.
I'm picturing if Golden Age Batman just walked into modern comics.
Exactly.
What is this? This is scary.
Yes.
It scares me.
Very much so.
I'm out of my depth.
Yeah. And not only that, we have the societal kind of perspective of that where, sure would be great if you could do more, but You can't. So I won't say it's not funny because, like we mentioned before in the prologue to all this, it's funny, but it's funny in the sense of like, this is sad, this is bleak, this is something that we probably should not find funny, but the way that it's presented kind of is in a weird way.
It's darkly funny.
To be clear, if it isn't already apparent already, Big Man Japan is a strange movie. But
I would say it's definitely not for everyone.
It's not, but I also think it's a movie you have to reflect on. It's one that I feel. One thing I was noticing after I watched it was like it kept kind of like sinking back to me at various points in my days and my weeks, and I was thinking about it. It was one of those that I definitely found myself wanting to think more about, and moreover, even kind of concentrate on what were some of the things that I thought would be worth expanding on, like trying to think about like what are some of the things that they're trying to convey with this. Is it the sense of tradition needing to change? Is it a sense of what is the kaiju genre in the 2000s, which is why I think this is perfect for our show in particular, because we started with just talking about Godzilla movies. Now we're really deconstructing what is a kaiju movie. What is the secret sauce? Why is it that we don't really have a steady stream of kaiju movies, but they've never really gone away. And I've always been kind of fascinated as to why that is. Is it social commentary? Is it this idea of just something terrifying and destructive? Or is it just the idea of how we view something much bigger than ourselves? There's really no right or wrong answer, but I do think it's something that we see explored in a lot of different ways, and Big Man Japan is no exception.
Oh, wow. No, that's... you definitely bring up a lot of good points about, I guess, pondering it. And I guess you were thinking almost like Big Man Japan is, in itself, I guess much like our show sort of is kind of deconstructing what it means to be a kaiju movie. Like
Absolutely.
Maybe a bit of a deconstruction on superheroes. I like that. That helps. And yeah, I don't think any of that is particularly flawed in Big Man Japan. I definitely like the idea. I definitely like I like what it was going for.
No, I do too.
I think it's one of those common issues that comes up in a lot of movies where it's a little bit of a stylistic thing for me.
Okay.
I'm all about style, and one of my favorite things about Big Man Japan was actually that kind of grounded, gritty documentary style where it's like it's bordering on not comedy. As I was watching like this, exploring this guy's life, it's a bit of a character study where he's kind of a superhero past his prime, and he's kind of a little down and out. His wife left him, can't see his daughter, not making any money. You're right, a lot of the people don't take him seriously anymore. It's like the monsters aren't really a threat so much to people that they've become kind of numb to it. So now it's like, oh, how much entertainment can we get out of it? He's kind of like part of this generational legacy where it's kind of past his prime. There's some, obviously, the issues with his grandfather, the fourth Big Man Japan, who was like this legend, but he's kind of, in the shadow of and taking care of him. And then we learn about the father, who there's apparently kind of an abusive relationship where the father wanted to kind of also achieve that greatness, but, went too far.
Never did, yeah.
Never quite did. So, I mean, just from a lot limited stuff I know about, just your basic narratives, I know that there's that idea about, a lot of, I guess, Japanese families, that idea of family honor and kind of living up to that. And there was one line early on where he was like saying, I kind of wanted a son so he could carry on the family name. Like that's been ingrained into him because of all the issues and all the weight from the previous generations of his fathers and his father's father. So I liked those elements. I liked the quiet moments, and honestly, there were a couple moments that I think were more blatantly humorous.
Definitely.
Like I love, honestly, one of my favorite parts is when they're going to his house and it's dilapidated, and he clearly makes money, but it's not really going to the right place, and he's just talking humdrum about how things are, how much you make, and people throw bricks at his house.
Yeah,
he's unfazed by it.
Yeah,
he's put up the windows, they continue the conversation, and then brick comes out. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
not least knee-slappingly hilarious, but I was like,
but amusing.
Amusing.
Yeah.
One of the more stereotypical kind of satirical elements I really was looking forward to was the kind of the obvious one. Like when they go in and they explain, okay, he grows big. What about the underwear? What about his costume? And he's standing in like the short trunks.
Yeah.
And literally like he grows into and expands. So one of these classic things from like Ultraman or something where guy grows up and he gets much larger, but we never know the details of the logistics of what about the clothes? Are they always that big? Personally, I thought that it just grows with them. But hey, that's a fun visual gag. And maybe it's also because of what I was expecting. I kind of wish the movie had more of that.
Yeah.
Or completely commit to the grounded, dark, gritty stuff. Because it was simple, and I don't think Amanda liked it very much, because I guess it dragged a bit for her. But that human element, where we don't focus that much on this big man Japan character. We look at the human side of him after the fact, and occasionally cut back to things. I loved that.
Yeah. Like there are fights, but they're few and far between.
But I don't know how, and I do want to talk about the fights, because I have mixed feelings about those too. Like, I liked elements of those, but I don't know how well they jive with the contrast of most of the rest of the movie stylistically.
Okay.
But even if we just say, okay, those are weird little things that kind of take you out of the fantastical, okay, I can kind of accept that, but it's not the most fluidly integrated.
No.
And actually, even beyond that, probably my biggest issue that took me out of the movie is like, I want them to commit to the documentary thing. I liked it.
Yeah.
But there's a couple moments where certain action scenes and flashbacks where it's like literally not filmed that way, and I'm like, wait a minute, where is this? So it's little things like that where I'm not sure why they did that. I would have preferred through dialogue or even implying things like the rest of the movie's doing.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I wish was a little more fluid throughout it. But I liked what it was going for. We got to talk about, I feel like the big selling point of the movie is the kaiju fights and the monsters.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when people see trailers, if you know about Big Man Japan at all, my guess is it's those visuals.
Yeah.
Which I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Because I have thoughts on them.
I do too. I think one really interesting factor of them is looking at them specifically through the time period that Big Man Japan came out.
In context, okay.
We were Japan, I would say the entire kaiju genre as a whole in the 2000s was kind of at an impasse where we were still kind of getting an actor in a monster suit throwing down with another guy in a monster suit, but it wasn't nearly as attractive. It wasn't nearly as engaging.
No.
And it was almost starting to get too campy. And we were seeing this struggle. And we saw this a little bit when we were doing Strictly There Goes Tokyo, where the Godzilla movies were starting to kind of focus on CGI. And some were decent. Some were definitely a little too heavy-handed with it and laid it on really thick.
Absolutely.
Regardless of whether or not it looked good. Big Man Japan CGI is definitely dated, but...
yeah.
I mean, for its time period, it's...
I think it kind of works.
Yeah.
For what it's going for. It didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to.
No. And I think... How do I put this? I feel like the way... If you look at it through that aspect of... We're in a transitionary period of how do we honor tradition while also acknowledging that changes need to happen. It's an interesting way to look at that. And even at the end, I'm not going to spoil anything. We kind of have this idea of, can we have our cake and eat it too, or are we just literally the side character in our own story?
Oh, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Well, I don't know. We'll see if we can avoid it without spoilers, but it might be impossible. I might be spoiling. But all right, before we move on to that,
I might be getting a little too ahead of myself.
I was like, you said that. I'm like, no. I think there's going to be some spoilers because I need to talk to you about something.
Okay.
No, thank you for bringing that up. That is, I think context helps. I think understanding the Japanese culture at that time and media and film. Godzilla Final Wars had come out, so in a way it was kind of like, you're right, it was like,
definitely
we're getting sillier, and Godzilla's kind of maybe lost some steam, we're putting him down for a while, what does the future of that look like, and where are we in dealing with our monsters, so to speak.
Yes.
So there's probably a lot going on there. As I was watching, and I'm like, it's one of those things where even though I feel pretty versed in this stuff, there were certain things that made me feel like it was, a little lost in translation.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be some cultural things, some pop culture things at the time, I'm not getting. And I'm going to, like, say whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess my thing is, I kind of, once again, I feel like they don't quite fit with the rest of the movie, but I kind of enjoyed the fights. I enjoyed that parody of it, that satirical element.
I think when you kind of look at it as an aspect of it's supposed to be anticlimactic, it's not supposed to be a giant throwdown. The fights are, I would say, relatively short. I would say minute maximum.
Oh, you know, and I maybe that's one thing people didn't like about it, because I'm not sure how people feel about it, but I feel like some people could be disappointed in the lack of action, maybe?
I feel like a common criticism is the action sequences happen, but they're not super elaborate, they're not super in-depth, and they're usually over pretty quick before we get back into the documentary stuff.
Well, they're interesting, though, and I guess the big question I want to ask you about the fights is, I don't care as much about the fights, it's silly. It's the creatures themselves.
Yeah.
Like, the design, they're very unique.
They are.
They're a little creepy.
Very.
But I think they oddly work, and I was wondering if you had any insight or just thoughts on why they went certain directions. I don't know much about the director. I think he's a comedic director.
I'm actually not familiar with the director.
Okay.
But
can I tell you? Maybe it's sorry.
No, you're good.
It's because it's been on my mind lately, and I've been wanting to watch it. Maybe we could even talk about it at some point. Like, I was getting a little bit of an Evangelion vibe.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we've got the group, this particular organization that fights against monsters. He's got a team that supports him, even though some of the ceremonial aspects are kind of silly. They're just, I love those little things where, like, why do we do this? It's almost like because we've always done
because
it.
We expect it to.
Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, no, but
no.
It makes him feel better. But yeah, I like that there's a system involved, and the creatures are so bizarre.
Yeah,
and they're not quite as scary, but they're also scary because they're like so weird.
Yeah.
But especially honestly the grappling one.
Yes.
Like his design, that thing's design was just the scales, like it's almost got wires or string. Very interesting. So it's like I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you thought you got anything out of what they were going for there.
Symbolically, I couldn't be 100% sure.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to. It's that I feel like there's more to unpack there.
Probably somebody tell us.
But to get back to your question of how did I feel about the fight scenes, I feel like they were appropriate for what the documentary was. The mockumentary or satirical.
It was so good.
Satirical documentary, what have you, was trying to convey. Like, I would argue each one kind of gives us a little nugget of information about our protagonist. Like, for example, the first one, it kind of gives us a crash course on, like, okay, here's what this guy does when he becomes giant kaiju. And later on we see, like, okay, what happens when he goes up against much bigger, much more terrifying thing. It's not a straightforward fight. He's in over his head. What do we do? Do we do nothing?
Where to go? We don't know. Maybe it'll come back.
That's a great question, but it's also Tuesday in Japan, so
it's like, whatever. The monster will
par
be
for the
back.
course.
Yeah, they become so inundated by it. They're used to it.
Yeah. So I think looking at it in terms of, like, here's how, if we look at it through, like, two spheres of, like, here's how we understand our protagonist through the documentary portions, and here's how we understand our protagonist through the fights. There's a little bit more to take away from those. And I think that's kind of the crux of them, and I think that's how it kind of gets away with why they're short, but they're also memorable, because the designs are cool. His body language, the way he handles himself in those, helps us understand this aspect of his life.
Okay, I like that. So it's like each monster could be reflective of something about him.
Yes.
Okay.
That was sort of my takeaway from it.
All
in
right.
so many words.
I did not think about it like that at all. I thought they were just like, this is some weird gag, but they were interesting. But yeah, that's very possible. I like that. Now, another potential issue I kind of had with the movie, and maybe this doesn't matter because we're focusing on the character.
Yeah.
But this is a movie where you could certainly say the mythology and the lore leave you with many, many questions.
Yes.
And I'm not like just thinking, okay, where do these monsters come from? Never does. It's just they're there because it's Japan,
reasons.
I guess.
Yes.
And at first we thought the little beams of light were aliens. Okay, they come, but apparently, like, the spirits leave the body, and so it's just. And I kind of thought because a lot of them were human, they could have been failed experiments. Amanda and I were thinking maybe the government's kind of creating these fights to keep people interested, you know,
Yeah.
as for entertainment, because everything's kind of economically
That's a
based.
decent theory. I like that.
I like that too. It's like, that was interesting. It's kind of why people aren't that scared, and they're always in these abandoned places, like it's staged. So maybe we don't really have a need for these heroes anymore. They're just there because they're part staples of our culture.
It's just basically pro wrestling.
It's yes. So I mean, it's kind of putting forward that idea, that presentation, and how much substance is there really anymore. It's like an echo of a former need, because there was that other thing he said earlier in the film where it's like, oh yeah, I was raised to think kind of the U.S. as an enemy. You know, I don't really leave Japan because there's always a threat here. But are there really threats here? Do they just give him threats? Like, because his grandfather might have felt that way, but things are different now.
Yeah.
So it's like a way of kind of dealing with just the political, social climate of the world, and you know, Japanese identity. Maybe. So
Possibly.
I liked a lot of the little lines, little pieces of dialogue in the movie are some of my favorite things about it. Just enough to get you thinking. But I don't know if it made a statement. However, in terms of like logic, if it has an actual story, like we don't know. We don't know, and maybe it doesn't matter. But a part of me is kind of like, I would have liked a few more answers. And even if I didn't get answers about the lore and the monsters, if it's about the human aspect of the story, and this is my biggest problem with the movie, it kind of gives up. And this is where we're getting into spoilers, is it doesn't leave you with a hint of resolution, really. It just kind of leaves you with more questions.
Yeah.
And okay, this is the spoiler tag here, 2642. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we throw in a timestamp or something.
Something like that. All right, so spoilers going ahead if you want to watch Big Man Japan, because this did annoy me a little bit. But okay, so instead of giving us a typical kind of resolution, because even documentaries don't have to, you know, they can leave you with questions. Life does that. I get it, but it doesn't do that. Where it's like, oh, we'll have some, you know, piece of him sitting on the train again, it's cyclical, and maybe there's hope he'll get with his daughter again, maybe not. Nothing. It goes a different direction, which for this movie felt a little left field to me, because they basically go into like this fantasy sequence.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, he's kind of like the side character. I'm gonna call upon this Ultraman family parody.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny. That was probably one of the more straight things.
Yeah, that's where like the bleak comedy comes in.
Yeah, and it's like, I did like how that was, you know, more traditional. We're in costumes, there's little sets, but they weren't done particularly well.
No, but I also feel like that was kind of the point.
Yeah, and I got that, like, but then it almost felt, okay, we're making fun of that a little bit, but once again, okay, we're gonna end with like these little credits where he's just kind of talking with, oh, this fight didn't go well, and maybe that's just, I guess, some commentary about the entertainment, which maybe that's fine, but I was so invested in the character, in the human element, which I thought was the strongest thing about the movie, that I thought to kind of abandon it completely for the fantasy at the end, and a different type of fantasy than we saw so far. I don't know if that totally worked for me in terms of the narrative.
No, it's a little jarring, but I feel like it's also supposed to be jarring, where like the whole time we're kind of looking at our protagonists the way he wants us to see him, where he does have these extraordinary abilities, but really at the end of the day, he's just an ordinary guy. And then at the end, he finally has a chance to kind of be viewed as this larger-than-life entity, but he doesn't really matter. Like, they have their whole big catch thing, and they try to get him involved, and it's very, very apparent his weight on that has no inclination on the effect.
It's like he's a side character in the, like, if this was a in-universe thing, he would be like one of the guest characters.
Absolutely.
He wouldn't be, he's not the savior of Japan. He's just kind of like a support character.
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe he's not as big as he ever thought he was, or his family thought he was, perhaps. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more he kind of embraces the fact that there are monsters bigger than himself, but there are also heroes bigger than him as well.
Okay. I like that. That's kind of like how we all feel.
And I think also the characters voicing their frustrations at him at the end, which is also where some of the comedy stems, helps kind of hit that home. But I feel like if we had gotten to that earlier in the movie and played with that a little bit more, we would have had some more resolution, even if it only was to further that anticlimax.
Yeah, like if they had broken that up maybe with more dream sequences, or like here comes the Ultraman family, and then push aside they get all the attention.
Yeah.
Like a scene or two of like, okay, yeah, this is it, and then okay, we get that insight. That would still feel like it falls a little more connected with the rest of the movie.
Right.
And that's my biggest issue with Big Man Japan, is that I like a lot of the ideas, I like a lot of what it did, but I don't think every stylistic choice necessarily jived with everything else.
No, it's definitely not without flaws.
But it was interesting. You know who apparently really liked this movie?
Go on.
Roger Ebert.
Sci-fi doesn't surprise me too much.
I don't know. I didn't think he was that big of a Godzilla guy, but I guess he liked the parody of it. I don't know. Not a very long review of his, but I was like, I wonder what he thought of this, because I always like to go back to Roger Ebert.
I'm actually surprised he found it and reviewed it, but yeah.
I don't know if you reviewed Trollhunter, but I was just like, yeah. But another minor thing.
Oh, go on.
And Amanda and I pointed this out. This kind of was something that maybe this, I don't know if this is intentional to the fantasy of it, but remember when he's fighting? Mm-hmm. Okay, at some point, he has longer hair, which is, I think, obviously a wig.
Yeah.
But he cuts his hair at some point.
Mm-hmm.
His hair stays the same length when he's been in Japan. They never cut it. I'm like,
it's like two separate entities.
I was like, oh yeah, it's like he regenerates when he's in that form. Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah,
it sounds like something very comic booky to me, but
yeah,
that's fine.
A little bit like early years of Hulk.
Yeah, kind of like he completely regenerates whenever he's Hulk, and then
yeah,
he can heal when you're Banner too. I think you can heal and come back and you're fine. So it means his hair should get longer. I don't know. Once again, logic shouldn't go out the window, but it surprised me how grounded a lot of the movie was.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I liked that very dry humor, and I don't know. I liked the weird monsters and the fights, but I don't know if I wanted them done differently or integrated differently. But I think the core of the movie, which is that exploration of the character and the little commentary through dialogue and stuff, I think that's the strength.
I think one thing that would have made a big difference with it is if they had picked up the pacing just a smidge more. Like, I feel like a lot of it would just linger on for like a hair too long.
I think it's a little slow.
That seems to be the common criticism among people, and I won't deny there are some points where it drags a little bit, but
that stuff made it seem more realistic.
Yeah,
which I don't know if that contrasts with.
But that also doesn't make it entertaining to watch, which is where I think a lot of the negative reviews stem from. Is the idea of, okay, we came for a monster movie, we got a character study that has monster fights in it.
Okay, so a little bit of a kind of postmodern critique.
Well,
I definitely think it's not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting more weird, goofy, like over the top satire. But I liked the stuff I wasn't expecting. Yeah. Ironically, the stuff that I was expecting, I let me down a little bit.
Yeah, I can echo that.
Which is like which was a cool surprise. Yeah. So you watched that like a month or two ago. So you thought about it as a pairing like before you saw it. So you just you heard about it.
So I knew that I really wanted to talk about this one because I thought it would be a good talker. I had kind of followed it for a few years, and everybody on the internet seemed to have an opinion about it.
As they do.
I wouldn't say it was something everybody has seen, but this was back in the time when IMDb had message boards. So you kind of see everybody unpacking as you're watching it. And I had never seen Trollhunter. I knew you were a big fan, so I'm like, let's do this one. I really want to hit, and let's do Trollhunter and see how it comes together.
Real quick before we move on to Trollhunter, nice segue, by the way. Thank you for having a copy of this or getting a copy of this, because I was trying not to get a physical copy. I thought I could stream it somewhere. I'm like, I'll buy it on Amazon, rent it for a few bucks. I'll do it. Movie's hard to find.
Yeah, I was even trying to dig around. It was having no luck.
It's like, man, this movie is tough to find. Oh, also, these two copies are from the same distribution company, Magnet.
Yep.
So I guess they're into giant kaiju,
among other things. But
yeah. So that was cool.
Weird art films.
Weird art films. I like those.
Yeah.
Segue into Trollhunter. Briefly to take it. You kind of set it up for me, Justin. Found footage-esque. Really, we're kind of going deep into Norway's forest. We've got kind of this college film school journalism crew going out there trying to do a documentary on people poaching bears. They're following this supposed bear hunter. I think it's Vlad, and he is kind of off doing some questionable things. They follow him further in, and it turns out he actually works for the government and preventing the trolls. There are trolls being running around, and they're contained in a particular area. So he's a troll hunter. And so he kind of prevents trolls from going out of their designated areas, and sometimes that involves killing them.
Yeah.
You know, with things like, he's got the flashing bulbs because they're sensitive to sunlight. He can turn them to stone, or they can explode. We learn a lot of little things about the mythology, I guess, of Scandinavian trolls. All kinds of little tidbits, like, smelling the blood of Christian men, and they put like this disgusting bile on them to get the troll scent off, and like there's different types of trolls, and like little things I forgot, like some of them have multiple heads, but they're not heads. They're ways to attract mates or to scare off other trolls, and they interact. There's mountain trolls and high trolls, and it's not like fairy tales where they're really intelligent. No, they're monsters, but they're really dumb. They just basically go off on this journey following him, and he's the cool thing, because it also kind of fits with Big Man Japan, is that it's also satirical.
Yes,
and that's one of the things about comedy in this one, which I thought was good, and I love how subtle it is.
Yeah.
But it rings so true. I mean, I liked it when I saw it years ago. I didn't think it was going to be good. Turned out it was. Great surprise. But as an older person, seeing that Vlad is basically a disgruntled government employee who's like, I'm the one troll hunter in the entire country. I'm not paid enough. I don't get overtime. The hazard pay is not good enough for this, and he's grumbling. I got to fill out
I'm genuinely sick of this.
I gotta do my tedious forms. The other guy I work with is annoying and on me. So basically, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let you film me and get it out there because people need to know. I'm tired of being mistreated. He's just done.
Yeah.
But he's also really kind of an awesome. I guess a badass might be the typical term. He's this tough guy, and he's a jerk
with a heart of gold.
He's a jerk with a heart of gold, and he's clearly been through the ringer. He's experienced. Nothing really phases him.
Yeah.
He's get out of the way. He knows danger, but he's just a very cool character.
Yes.
And I like how well realized he is. And perhaps a minor advantage that maybe something like this versus Big Man Japan has, which might be a little different because of the style. I liked how Big Man Japan, you've got basically your interviewer who's off screen. We hear the questions, but not really a character. He's just kind of there. With this one, we actually get to know all our crew. We get to know the different characters, their personalities. Very Blair Witch-esque, all the found footage stuff. But I like it. They feel believable. They feel like real young people.
Yeah.
And just seeing them interact and getting scared, and a lot of the classic found footage elements work here. Okay, our CGI might not be the best, but we're going to film at night. We're going to have mist. We're going to have night cams that, now we can see in this particular way. And even when there is a little bit of light, it actually looks pretty good. It's a lot of things in between are just kind of showing off lovely Norway. Beautiful vistas, just beautiful landscapes. Really, so I think that it flows pretty well as a satire, but I also think some of the horror works.
Yeah, there's definite tension, but I would never say it's like a thriller.
No, it's kind of... I like how well balanced it is, and that's why when I was asking about mockumentary, found footage, this almost had despite those little tidbits at the beginning and end, which I kind of felt were unnecessary.
I agree.
I know Amanda was like, well, that's kind of dumb. They didn't need to do that.
No.
Really, it just felt like this is a documentary about this secret thing.
Just own it.
And I love that it just felt like this natural, realistic thing. And I think Trollhunter, I don't know if I quite liked it as much as I did years ago, because I think the first time I saw it was over a decade ago. So I mean, the trolls themselves, I don't know, they're a little dated, but it still kind of works.
I was gonna say they don't look bad. No, especially for their time.
No, they don't look bad, and they film it really cleverly, and with the lighting, it works well. I think that especially there are some, like you said, some moments of tension and comedy.
Absolutely.
When Vlad's got his big armor and he's getting banged around, but it's kind of funny. But you're also like, is he okay?
Yeah.
Amanda was watching with me, and she's like, she's gasping. She's like, she was into it, and the scenes in the cave when they're trying to escape. Oh no! And then spoilers, the cameraman gets it. Okay, it was pretty good. So that was kind of scary. Although they kind of get over it quickly.
Yeah. Literally 1 second later, it's like, oh, we got a new person now.
I was like, oh, that's sad. Why didn't he tell us the truth? And then no. So that was a good one, and I think the big climactic chase is really good.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if there's got to be as much for me to say about this one. I just think it's pretty competently done, and maybe you can refresh my memory just through the list of things. I'm not as versed in found footage as maybe I could be, but I think other than maybe the obvious impact of Blair Witch, I think this is my favorite found footage-esque movie that I can think of. I mean,
I'm a Cloverfield nerd, but
I'd have to watch Cloverfield again because I watched it one time. I think Cloverfield's definitely more straightforwardly scarier than this one.
yeah. Session 9, I liked. The problem with Session 9 is I saw it well after.
This will be where we cut. You'll have to hold that thought, Justin. But you saw it well after the blank.
Yeah, all good.
Honey, you're going to be recorded.
No, I'm not.
Well, I might put this
Howdy.
part about you talking. We're like doing pretty good, honey. We're like almost doing fine. See if you can.
How am I supposed to get across without being on the camera?
Well, that's the power of editing. Will I let them see? Oh no. I should keep this
Amanda
all in.
proceeds to take a seat and silently judges us for the next 40 minutes.
Well, I'm sure she'll make a comment. I told her to. And nothing happened. As you were saying,
There's
you saw
nobody there.
There's nobody there. You saw it well before what?
So I saw it not well before, but well after.
Well, after.
Well after the found footage genre had been established, where a lot of the tropes came from that, and Trollhunter has them too. I would say they're not as in your face, but you have your shaky cam, as we mentioned in the prologue. We have the POV of somebody either ending up dead or harmed or some other aspect, what have you. But the one thing I like about this one, in contrast to so many that have tension or are thrillers in that regard, is Trollhunter's protagonists are dumb, but they're believably dumb.
You're right. They're not morons.
They're reckless college students.
Also, to kind of echo that a little bit, they're not incredibly annoyingly dumb.
No,
They're also pretty likable.
yeah, for the most part.
A lot of these are horror movies, and sometimes your characters just aren't very likable because they don't take the time to really give them dimension.
Because by the time we start to actually get to know them, the plot starts happening. So
Exactly.
which is an unfortunate aspect. But no, the one thing that I also really liked about this one that I found really refreshing, not only for this movie specifically, but for the kaiju genre as a whole, is it's really rare that we look at the kaiju not so much as something to be defeated, but as something that we want to explore with pathos. Like the Trollhunter, the titular Trollhunter, sees these.
And want to talk about kaiju? It's
As we get a kaiju.
it's Catzilla, or is it Cat Kong? I forget. See, we have our own little. See, I know he's not.
Guest cameo, everybody.
See, there's just. See, I knew it would fall apart. It's because
It's fine. It's fine.
It's because
It's all
mom
good.
came home.
It's totally cool.
Pathos.
Yes.
So much
Thank you.
pathos.
Yeah. Is we attack it with a sense of pathos. Like our titular Trollhunter is dealing with all these different classes, different categorizations. I wish we had a little bit more time on that because I feel like we get like 2 or 3 sentences and then lead up to big sequence.
I think we see most of them though.
We do, but like I wanted to like really explore that in more depth, and we only get like a little taste of that by the time it's over. But the thing I find interesting about it is most of the time it's not treated as let's kill this thing. It's treated as wait, something's not right here. This doesn't happen. This is like something we might see every couple of months. We're seeing this like every month. What's going on? And the exploration of that, like the scene with the veterinarian, where they're kind of like breaking down the anatomy, I thought was like the best scene in the whole movie.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was a good.
Where it's like, okay, here's how this happens. Here's why this is weird, and here's more things we should take away from this with that in mind.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the fact that it's almost like wildlife conservation, we're going to look at these creatures as kind of a part of nature. They're a part of our country. We're going to respect them and try to kind of intermingle and coexist with them in a way that works while keeping everyone safe. Kind of almost makes me wonder, like, if they had actually found a way, maybe that would be a potential option for a sequel of actually making it public. Because I feel like if they're pretty much cut off, I almost feel, and maybe this is a commentary on the government in the film, it would actually be more beneficial if the people, say, in the electrical towers knew what was in the area, because like, do they know? No. Don't you think that would be a good idea for some people to be in the know, so they're on the watch? So in a way, they're kind of making it more difficult for themselves by keeping it a secret. So I thought,
Just a little bit.
if there's a bit of commentary there, I wouldn't surprise me. So I do agree. It's like But I will say maybe these are some other potential reviews in the future. I think that there are some other kaiju films that do explore that too a little bit.
Definitely.
I mean, would you say that you like Monsters? Maybe Monsters has a little bit of that going on too?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're just kind of, they're these creatures, we don't understand them, but they're not necessarily threats that we have to go to war with.
No,
You know?
they are not.
You'll love this, because I love that you mentioned the pathos. Okay, we can look at the monsters a different way. Would you say that's something that maybe they try to echo in perhaps the new modern American Godzilla movies, or is that kind of the idea?
I think they started with that, and then they decided that the American public wanted more smashy. So,
well, we do want some smashy. But,
yeah, I was gonna say we most of us grew up with the campy Godzilla movies. So I mean,
Can't really-
I understand where they're coming from. The problem is, it is possible to have your cake and eat it too, and that's where I feel like the American genre is getting away from. It's becoming all smashy, no plot. And Godzilla -1, it exists as a testament to that. But obviously, we're over here doing our own thing. And I think the MonsterVerse can still bring interesting things to the table. It's just we're kind of struggling to find out what that is and how we can do that. The one thing I find kind of interesting as well, that it kind of weirdly ties Trollhunter and Big Man Japan together a little better than I thought it would be, is
What's that?
the societal reaction to how everything is kind of handled. Is, oh yeah, by the way, there's trolls, and no one cares.
Nobody believes it. Like,
Yeah.
really, nah.
Yeah, like there's this whole idea of like, oh yeah, it's like what we knew, but oh wait, what we knew and what is actually happening are two entirely different things.
That's true. Yeah, there's a certain lack of excitement. There's a lot of
Yeah.
apathy. Nobody has any reaction to these fantastical things because it's like right under their noses. Are you suggesting that maybe in Trollhunter it's like maybe people do kind of know about the trolls, they just don't really care?
I feel like it's an almost disenchantment in so many words.
Okay. That the government's trying to put over this big smoke screen, but really they're not doing a very good
Yeah.
job. So it's like, okay, we'll let you think you know what you're doing. We don't mind. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Like,
part of our.
we've
we
heard
are.
these stories since we were kids, so
Ooh, both of these movies. See, you picked a great double, Justin.
apparently
Both of these
happy
movies.
accidents.
No, it was good. Yeah, I think you subconsciously knew it. I think that both these movies, I think, have a little bit of that commentary, exploration of kind of our cultural identity through our stories, through our medium.
Definitely.
You know, I think that's.
I like that.
Yeah, that's something they both have. It's like one's very much kind of Japanese movie.
Yeah.
One's very much kind of Norwegian movie, and just we're gonna look at through our monsters, through through the battles with them, and how we deal with them. So that's pretty cool. See.
What does that say about ourselves, and what does that say about our place in our culture?
They both have that kind of going on. Do you think that Big Man Japan could take on that giant troll at the end?
I'm sure he could probably defeat one of them, but I don't think the big guy at the end would probably end up being more of a hassle.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, of course we gotta make it a little bit silly here. Do you think that? Okay. Well, I don't think Big Man Japan, Big Sato, could fare well against, say, Godzilla, or honestly most of his monsters, because he's not really in their league.
Joe, he'd fight. He'd be able to fight off Giant Bird.
You think he'd fight off the giant bird? No. Actually,
The one that gave Godzilla an existential crisis.
well, look, he just really was hankering for fried chicken, and he delivered. He was like, I think
It's far not the worst fight scene.
what if it is? What if that was like ultimately his arch enemy, not the big red guy? Which Amanda actually thought that might have been his dad,
Oh my!
right? Yeah,
Anything's possible.
I was thinking they were going to come out and say it, but they never quite went there.
No.
Okay, how well do you think the giant troll at the end would fare against, say, I don't know, your Godzilla of your choice?
Oh, I get to pick which Godzilla.
Sure. Okay, is there a scenario in which one of the Godzillas could be defeated by the giant troll?
Yeah, I could see that. I think Showa Godzilla would probably have a fairly even fight.
Okay.
Like, does he have weird abilities like flying backwards? Yes, but I think it'd be at least even.
Okay. Well, do you think he could defeat the monster of two strict mothers?
Few things could.
The homework monster. Oh.
The true enemy, homework.
Well, I think a lot of kids will bring that. We're gonna watch that soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, officially. I don't know if we'll talk about it, but we might. We gotta talk about some of the Godzilla movies again.
Revisit.
Absolutely. there goes Tokyo Revisit. That'll be another thing. Yeah. Any final thoughts? I feel like that's mostly what we.
Yeah.
said.
No, I think this was. I think this was fun.
It's been a while.
It has. It really has. But no, I think these are. I think these are good movies. I think they're unique movies.
Definitely.
Trollhunter, I think, is a bit more accessible.
Certainly.
Big Man Japan. The best advice I can give anyone about it is take what you know about just the entire kaiju genre, even if you're fairly new to it, and just throw it out the window. Watch it once, and just kind of like let it sit. Let yourself think about it, and I think it'll reward you. And if you are familiar, still do that, because I think the more you think about it, the more it kind of rewards that deconstruction. Looking at the tropes, thinking about how it defies those tropes, or even challenges those tropes to varying degrees. Trollhunter 2, I think it's just in a different way, and I think it's both interesting and also and fun to compare and contrast. What makes this one effective at this, but not in another way, or in Big Japan.
Big Japan.
Sorry, my tongue was not working there. Or in Japan, what was effective and what wasn't. It's not necessarily that one is superior over the other. It's more looking at different contributions to the genre and what adds to it or detracts from it.
Well, that's definitely more what we're about on this show anyways. We're just kind of exploring it, talking about it, and kind of seeing what works, what doesn't, what it adds to the canon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's what's really cool is we're going to get maybe more experimental as it goes along.
Most likely.
And I'm making it official again. I don't remember if I said it before, but this was long overdue. The next one, which hopefully won't be another year or two.
Hopefully not. We're trying, folks. We're trying.
I'm trying. I personally just want to get it done because it's been in the back of my head. But I like the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Yep.
Original 50s one with Colossal.
Yes.
I want to pair those two lady monsters.
I think both are going to be talkers, but for very, very different reasons.
Right, very different reasons. But I like that pairing. After that, we'll keep it open. I still think maybe we'll get Nathaniel on to make him watch the Digimon movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we kicked around a few ideas. I'd love to do more Gamera.
Gamera.
One thing I was thinking about as well was maybe looking into yokai.
Okay.
But just kind of exploring what else is out there. Things that are, shall we say, a bit more obscure, so to speak.
And if anybody has any suggestions for things that would kind of fit, give us those, because we definitely have more we could come up with. I think Cloverfield could get a special cut for you for sure. And like I said, we're not exactly pumping these out because we're busy. School year's about to start for me, so we'll see. But I want to get that next one done. So definitely, people, hope you enjoyed this one. Leave your comments, and until next time, we'll say goodbye.
Take it easy.